like for sure soil health is going to make a big difference, because for every 1% you increase 1% carbon you increase your soil levels, you'll increase the water carrying capacity about 15,000 gallons per acre in the top 12 inches of soil. And so like if you go from, whatever you're at right now, which is probably, just, less than one, I'm guessing, if it's just gravel, and you get up to, so 1%, so 15,000 gallons, 2%, that's 30,000 gallons, 3%, that's 45,000 gallons. And you up until about 4%, which is, 60,000 gallons per acre in the top 12 inches. And after that, it starts to kind of taper off. But if you can, which is not hard to do, there's all kinds of folks that have increased their soil levels from 1% to even, Gabe Brown did it to 8% on his farm in, I believe it took him 20 years in one field because he didn't know what he was doing, but now he figures he can do it a lot faster. So because carbon is like is a sponge, and it literally holds more water than soil that doesn't have it. And so I think that for sure would be one of my strategies is finding some way to increase the soil carbon. And so you're already doing rotational grazing, which is fantastic. You're also doing bale grazing, which is also really, really useful. And so one of the things we do on our farm is, because we also have very low organic matter soils, because we hayed our land for 30 years. And so we basically mined all of our carbon out of our soils and sold it to other people. And now we're trying to get it back. But our rule is we basically just take the worst, 10 or 15 acres. That's just based on our herd size. And we'll, bale graze on that, the worst portion of the farm every year for the winter. And then we just rotate around. And what we're seeing is in 1 year, we'll take our worst field and it'll become our best field. It'll double or triple production in a single year just from bale grazing or spreading compost on it. And so, it sounds like you're already, doing stuff like that. And that's kind of the lowest level offering. But because you live in a desert, so there's actually there's two definitions of what a desert is. One is, this is a bad definition. They just say, any place in the world that gets less than a certain amount of rain. And, typically it's like 15 inches. If you get less than 15 inches, you're a desert. Well, that doesn't make any sense because, like the Sahara Desert gets 12 inches of rain, but you get 12 inches of rain. And I also get 12 inches of rain. And yet our properties look very, very different. And so the real factor is it's how much rain you get versus how much rain you lose, or the Evapo Transpiration. And so you live in an area where, and without looking at the maps, because there are Evapo Transpiration maps, but you probably are losing, my guess is 2 to 3 feet of rain or moisture every year, 24 to 36 inches of moisture every year. And so that's through evaporation. So coming back to that forest analogy, but yet if you walk into that forest, no one's flood irrigating it, no one's managing it, and yet it's building topsoil. So it has high organic matter, and it's growing, these beautiful trees, and sure, their roots are reaching down into the water table, but the core kind of trick that they're achieving is shade. The shade is way more valuable than mulch in a desert. You can have a really good organic matter layer on your soil, but it's still not the same as having, an overstory tree that's taking that solar energy and buffering it before it even hits the ground. So my gut is for your property some kind of a silvopasture system with trees. So say we put in some some lines here, and I'm not sure if I'm just going to follow kind of your existing the dikes there, and because those dikes are essentially swales that you've got. And so if you could put tree belts along those swales, and spaced whatever that distance is apart. Let's measure it here in feet. So I mean, it's 50 feet apart. That's still a decent alleyway to graze down. But I want you to look at these trees here by this river, and you see how this is probably the center of the tree right there. So we measure out, well, that's 60 feet
Yeah.
where the shade is, right? And so, if you had these tree rows, spaced all across your property, down these, wherever that is, down these dikes. I think there's another one there or something, but say they're all spaced 50 feet apart or whatever that looks like. And maybe you might want to put in new dikes. It might be worthwhile to survey this out, get really